All right, let's dive into Chapter 2 of Nudge. We're going to tackle a question that, let's be honest, gets all of us. Why is it so incredibly hard to resist temptation? You know the drill. We all make these great plans to eat healthier, wake up earlier, save more money, but then somehow we just don't. So what's really going on?
The whole thing kicks off with this great little story about a dinner party. One of the authors, the host, puts out a bowl of cashews. And, of course, his guests start munching away, and he realizes they're going to spoil their appetites for the main course. So he just takes the bowl away. When he comes back to the room, something strange happens. His guests actually thank him.
And this is kind of weird, right? I mean, standard economic thinking says more choice is always better. If you don't want any more cashews, just stop eating them. So why on earth would anyone be happy, even grateful, to have that choice taken away from them? This one simple question actually uncovers something huge about how our brains are wired. Yeah, this cashew conundrum isn't just some funny dinner party quirk. It's a perfect window into how inconsistent we are. See, in one moment, the guests wanted to be disciplined and just have a few nuts. But they also knew that their future selves, the ones sitting there a few minutes later, would probably eat the entire bowl. And they were literally thankful to be saved from themselves. And there's actually a fancy term for this, dynamic inconsistency. It just means our preferences can literally flip-flop over time. You know how it is. On Sunday night, you feel great and you totally prefer to wake up early Monday for a workout. But when that alarm goes off Monday morning, suddenly hitting the snooze button seems like the best idea in the entire world. Your preference has completely changed. So, what's really driving this self-sabotage? Well, the authors of Nudge say it really boils down to two big culprits. First, you've got the obvious one. Good old temptation. But the second one is a little sneakier, and that's something they call mindlessness. Let's break them both down. To really get a handle on temptation, you've got to picture this battle that's constantly raging inside your head. It's a showdown between two completely different versions of you, what they call a far-sighted planner and a myopic doer. And this really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the planner. That's your inner Mr. Spock, logical, rational, always thinking about your long-term health and wealth. This is the part of you that sets New Year's resolutions. But on the other side, you've got the doer, your inner Homer Simpson, who's all about what feels good right now. The planner thinks in a calm, cold state, but the doer is easily swept away when things get hot. And this leads to a massive mistake in our thinking called the hot-cold empathy gap. Basically, when we're in that calm, cold state, planning our meals for the week, we totally underestimate how powerful our cravings will be when we get into a hot state. It's why you can walk into a restaurant absolutely sure you're skipping dessert, but the second that waiter rolls the dessert cart over, your doucher hijacks the controls, and suddenly all bets are off. But here's the thing, it's not always some epic battle with temptation. Sometimes we mess up simply because we're not really choosing at all. We're just running on autopilot. I mean, think about how often your brain's automatic system just takes over. Have you ever been driving and suddenly realized you took your usual route to work, even though it's Saturday? Or have you polished off a whole bag of chips while watching a movie without even remembering tasting them? That's mindlessness, and it's a huge driver of our behavior, especially when it comes to food. To see just how powerful this is, check out this wild experiment. Researchers went to a movie theater and handed out free popcorn to people. But here's the catch. The popcorn was 5 days old. It was so stale that people said it squeaked when they chewed it. Now, half the people got a medium-sized bucket, and the other half got a giant one. And get this, even though the popcorn was objectively terrible, the people with the bigger bucket ate 53% more. The bucket size was a nudge that their mindless, automatic brains just went along with. And here's the real kicker. When they were asked about it later, most people completely denied that the bucket size made any difference. They'd say things like, "Oh, things like that don't trick me." But the data showed they were dead wrong. Our autopilot is often in charge, and we don't have a clue. Okay, so it sounds like we're fighting a war on two fronts, right? Against temptation and against our own mindlessness. But it's not hopeless. That clever planner inside your head has some tricks up its sleeve to outsmart the impulsive doer. Let's look at a few of these strategies. One of the best weapons in the planner's arsenal is something called a commitment device. This is basically a strategy you set up now while you're in a calm, cold state to control what you'll do later when things get hot. The classic example is Ulysses from the ancient myths. He wanted to hear the siren's beautiful, deadly song, so he had his crew tie him to the mast of his ship. He was literally locking his future self into a safe course of action. And here's a perfect modern-day version of that. Clocky, the alarm clock.
Your planner sets it for 6 a.m., but your sleepy doer just wants to slam that snooze button. Well, Clocky solves that problem by jumping off your nightstand and rolling away, beeping. You are forced to get out of bed to shut it off. By then, boom, your planner has won the day.
You can also use other people to create these commitments. For example, a PhD student who kept procrastinating on his thesis couldn't get motivated by thinking about his retirement savings. So instead, he gave his professor a bunch of post-dated checks for $100. If he missed a deadline, the professor would cash one and throw a party for everyone except him. Now that worked. The key is making the pain of failure feel immediate and real to your doer.
Now, aside from these external tricks, there's another really fascinating strategy that our planners use, and this one happens completely inside our own heads. It's called mental accounting.
The actor Dustin Hoffman tells this great story from back when he was a struggling actor. A friend came to visit, and Hoffman asked to borrow some money for food. The friend was totally confused because he could see these jars on the counter full of cash, labeled rent, utilities, and so on. Hoffman just pointed to the food jar, which was completely empty.
And that is a perfect example of mental accounting. Logically, a dollar is a dollar. Money is supposed to be fungible, but in our heads, we create these different buckets. We treat money in the rent account is totally different from money in our vacation account. And why do we do this? It's a self-control strategy. It's our planner trying to protect our long-term goals from our doer's impulse to spend.
This explains so much behavior that looks totally illogical on the surface. Why would someone keep $5,000 in a savings account earning almost nothing, while at the same time carrying a $3,000 credit card balance at 18% interest? To an economist, that's just irrational. But from a human point of view, it's a smart self-control move. That savings account is a sacred mental account. It's off limits, protected from the doer.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway? It's that your life is pretty much a constant tug-of-war between your far-sighted planner and your impulsive doer. We fail to stick to our goals not because we're weak, but because we underestimate just how powerful temptation and mindlessness really are. The secret is to stop fighting a battle of pure willpower and instead give your planner better tools like commitment devices and mental accounts to actually win.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. Your inner planner, that Spock part of your brain, it knows what's best for you. So the question is, what's one small nudge, one little commitment or mental trick that you can set up today to make it just a little bit easier for your best self to win out tomorrow?